Snoop was stepping out of his tour bus, stretching his arms, breathing in that crisp night air outside the venue, the kind that carried a mix of city noise, anticipation, and that undeniable pre-show energy when the crowd was already buzzing inside. The bass was thumping through the walls, people were hyped, and the whole place was alive with that special kind of excitement that only hit when a show was about to start. He adjusted his shades, took a slow pull from his joint, about to head inside when something caught his eye, a kid, maybe 13 or 14, standing a few feet away from the entrance, gripping a piece of cardboard like it was his last hope. Snoop squinted, stepping a little closer, reading the shaky, handwritten words. "I saved half for a ticket, but it wasn't enough. Just want to see Snoop live." Kid wasn't begging. Wasn't causing a scene. Just standing there, hopeful, watching people walk past him into the building, his eyes flicking toward security every time the line moved, like maybe, just maybe, someone would let him slide through. Snoop exhaled slow, watching for a second. "Ayo, what's good, lil homie?" The kid blinked up at him, eyes widening like he wasn't sure if he was dreaming. Snoop grinned. "Let me see that sign." The kid hesitated for a second, gripping the sign a little tighter, like maybe he thought Snoop was about to take it from him or maybe laugh at him. But Snoop wasn't about to do either of those things. He just stood there, sunglasses low on his nose, a little smirk playing at the corner of his lips, waiting. Finally, the kid loosened his grip and held up the cardboard so Snoop could see it better. The letters were big, written in black marker, a little uneven, like he had rushed to get them down before heading out the door. The edges of the cardboard were bent, like he'd been holding it for a while, maybe too nervous to actually use it, maybe too hopeful that he wouldn't have to. Snoop read it again, then nodded slowly. "You been standing out here long, kid?" The boy shrugged, looking down at his sneakers. "Couple hours." Snoop raised an eyebrow. "Couple hours, huh? Security giving you trouble?" The kid gave a small, defeated chuckle. "Nah, they just doing their job. I asked if there were any extra tickets, but they said if I ain't got the full price, I gotta bounce." Snoop exhaled through his nose, nodding to himself. "Yeah, that sounded like some security talk." He glanced over at the entrance, where a couple of guards stood with their arms crossed, eyes scanning the crowd, making sure no one tried to sneak past them. He knew they weren't being heartless, just following orders. But that didn't mean the situation sat right with him. His gaze flicked back to the kid. "What's your name, lil homie?" The kid hesitated, then said, "Marcus." Snoop grinned, reaching into his pocket. "Aight, Marcus. How about we fix this real quick?" Snoop didn't hesitate. He wasn't the type to overthink when something just felt right. He had seen a lot of things in his life, had met all kinds of people, been in situations that could flip one way or another with just a few words, but this was simple. The kid wanted something that was real to him, something that wasn't just about money, something that felt like it meant something bigger than just a concert ticket. Snoop reached into his pocket, pulling out an all-access pass, one of those heavy, laminated ones with the bold lettering, the kind that got you past every checkpoint in the building. Let you walk straight into the VIP section, no questions asked. He twirled it between his fingers for a second, letting the kid see it, watching as his eyes widened just slightly, like he knew what it was but couldn't quite believe it was real. The moment stretched, thick with the kind of quiet anticipation that made everything feel bigger, like the second before a beat drops, like the pause before a punchline. Then Snoop grinned. "You ever been to a concert before, lil homie?" Marcus blinked, his fingers tightening around the sign, his throat working like he wasn't sure if he should say yes or no, like he didn't want to sound too desperate but also didn't want to lie. He finally shook his head. "Nah," he admitted, voice quieter than before. I wanted to, but tickets were always too much. I started saving last year when I heard you were coming, but," he stopped himself, glancing away like the rest of the sentence didn't need to be said. Snoop already knew how it ended. Snoop exhaled through his nose, slow, thoughtful, tapping the pass against his palm as he steadied the kid. He knew what this moment was. He knew what it was like to be on the outside looking in, to want something so bad you could feel it in your chest, but to know it wasn't meant for people like you. He had been there before, had been that kid standing on the other side of a locked door, watching people walk past like they were in a different world, like they didn't even see him. He didn't forget what that felt like. And he damn sure wasn't about to let this kid carry that weight tonight. Snoop held the pass out, casual, like it wasn't a big deal, like he did this every day, but he made sure the kid saw it clearly, made sure he understood exactly what was being handed to him. Marcus stared at it. Didn't move. Didn't even breathe. "You rollin' with me tonight," Snoop said, like it was already decided, like it wasn't even a question. Marcus finally blinked, his voice cracking when he said, "Wait, for real?" Snoop tilted his head. "Nah, I'm just messing with you." Marcus' face fell, his hands dropping slightly. Snoop burst out laughing. "Come on, man, I ain't that cold. It's yours. Take it." Marcus reached out slowly, hesitating just before his fingers touched the pass, like he thought it might disappear, like he was afraid that the second he grabbed it, reality was gonna crash in and tell him it was a joke. He looked up at Snoop, searching his face for something, anything, like he still didn't fully believe this was happening. "You serious?" Snoop slid his sunglasses down just enough to look him in the eye. "Dead serious, lil homie." Marcus finally took it, his hands shaking slightly as he gripped it, running his thumb over the smooth plastic, feeling the raised letters under his fingertips like he was trying to memorize the way it felt. Like he needed proof it was real. Snoop nodded toward the entrance. "Let's go." Marcus' feet didn't move at first. His brain was still catching up, still processing what just happened, still replaying the last 30 seconds like a movie scene he couldn't quite believe was real. Then, finally, his legs worked, and he took the first step forward, then another, following Snoop toward the entrance like he was stepping into another world, one he had only imagined before. The lights were brighter now. The music was louder. And suddenly, everything felt possible. They reached the security line, the place where Marcus had been stopped before, where the night had almost ended for him before it even started. The guards were still there, still standing tall, scanning the crowd, looking for problems before they even happened. One of them recognized Marcus immediately, his brows pulling together in confusion as he took a step forward. "Hey, this kid." Snoop cut him off with a raised hand. "He's with me." The guard hesitated, glancing at Marcus, then back at Snoop, his eyes flicking to the VIP pass in the kid's hand. "You sure?" Snoop tilted his head, his voice dropping just slightly. "You see anybody else around here wearing these shades? Looking this good?" "Yeah, I'm sure." The guard's face twitched like he wanted to say something else, but then he sighed, stepping aside. "All right, go ahead." Marcus exhaled, his grip on the pass tightening. Snoop smirked, clapping him on the back. "You good now, lil homie. Welcome to the show." As soon as they stepped inside, the energy hit different. The bass vibrated through the floors, the lights pulsed in time with the music, and the whole venue felt like it was alive, like the air itself was charged with something bigger than just sound. Marcus turned in slow circles, taking it all in, his eyes wide, his breath coming fast. Snoop watched him, nodding slightly. "Yeah," he muttered. "That's how it's supposed to feel." Marcus turned back to Snoop, opening his mouth like he wanted to say something, but no words came out. He didn't need to say anything. Snoop just smiled, tilting his head toward the VIP section. "Let's go find your seat." As they walked, Marcus held onto the pass like it was the most important thing in the world, like it wasn't just plastic but proof that things could change, that one night could shift everything, that dreams weren't always as far away as they seemed. And for the first time all night, he let himself believe it. Snoop glanced at Marcus one last time before they reached the VIP section, watching the way he moved now, lighter, more confident, like the weight he had been carrying all night had finally lifted. He knew this wasn't just about a concert. It was about what happens when you show someone that the world ain't as closed off as they think. Snoop smirked, lighting up a joint. "Yeah," he muttered to himself. This one's gonna stick with him. Snoop had seen it too many times before. Security wasn't the enemy, but they followed the book, and the book didn't always leave room for things like moments that actually mattered. To them, Marcus was just another kid who didn't have a ticket, just another face in a crowd of people trying to get in, and rules were rules. But Snoop wasn't about to let this moment get stopped at the door over something as small as a missing barcode on a piece of paper. He could already feel the tension as they approached the gate, Marcus still gripping the pass so tight his knuckles had gone pale, his body stiff like he was expecting someone to reach out and snatch it away before he even got to use it. The kid's whole posture screamed, "Don't get your hopes up too much," like he was already preparing himself for security to shut this down, for the universe to remind him that things like this don't just happen. Snoop glanced at him and sighed through his nose, shaking his head slightly. "Relax, lil homie," he muttered. "Ain't nobody taking that pass from you. You in." But Marcus wasn't convinced. Not yet. And when the security guard stepped forward, arms crossed, face serious, the kid froze. The guard was tall, built like a guy who spent his mornings lifting weights and his afternoons making sure nobody tried anything stupid. His gaze flicked down to Marcus before settling on Snoop, his expression unreadable. "Sorry, Mr. Dogg, but this kid." Snoop didn't even let him finish, holding up a hand, his other hand still resting in his pocket, cool as ever. "He's with me." The guard hesitated. "You sure?" Snoop smirked, tilting his head. "You see anybody else out here wearing these shades? Looking this good?" "Yeah, I'm sure." The guard exhaled, glancing between the pass and Marcus' hands and the line of VIPs already moving through security. He clearly wanted to argue, wanted to say something about protocol, about how things were supposed to work, but he knew who he was talking to. Snoop didn't argue, didn't push. Just stood there, waiting, letting the weight of his words settle. And finally, after a long pause, the guard stepped back. "All right. Go ahead." Marcus let out a shaky breath like he had just avoided some kind of disaster, his grip on the pass loosening just slightly. Snoop clapped him on the back, steering him forward. "Told you, lil homie. We good." As soon as they stepped past security, it was like stepping through a portal. The air was thicker inside, buzzing with that electricity that only exists right before a show starts. The bass from the speakers was deeper now, vibrating through the floor, mixing with the hum of excited conversations, the shuffle of people finding their seats, the distant crackle of a sound check happening somewhere behind the stage. Marcus turned in slow circles, eyes wide, taking in the massive screen's flashing visuals across the arena, the way the stage looked bigger than life, the way the whole venue felt like something unreal. Snoop just watched, smirking. "Yeah," he muttered. "That's how it's supposed to feel." The VIP section wasn't just about better seats, it was a whole different experience. It was a space where people weren't crammed together, where the view was perfect, where everything felt exclusive, like you were part of the inner circle. Marcus hesitated as they walked in, like he wasn't sure if he really belonged here, like at any second someone might ask him to leave, to remind him that he was just a kid who wasn't supposed to be here. Snoop noticed. "You feeling weird?" he asked. Marcus shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "Kinda." Snoop leaned in slightly. "Let me tell you something, lil homie. You ain't crashing this party. You invited. Act like it." Marcus swallowed hard, then nodded. And finally, for the first time since he got the pass, he relaxed. As the lights started to dim, a slow, rising energy rippled through the crowd. The conversation started to fade, replaced by cheers, claps, that low, restless hum of anticipation. Marcus sat forward in his seat, gripping the armrests, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his fingertips. The moment he had been waiting for, the one he had almost missed, was finally here. Snoop chuckled, watching the way the kid leaned in, the way his whole body was practically vibrating with excitement. "Yeah," he muttered. "He feeling it now." And then, darkness. For half a second, everything stopped. Then the bass dropped. and the whole building erupted. Snoop walked toward the stage like he had done 1,000 times before, like it was just another night, just another crowd, just another show. But for Marcus, it wasn't just another anything. It was everything. The beat hit, smooth, familiar, rolling through the speakers like liquid gold, and Snoop started rapping, his voice weaving through the air like it belonged there. Marcus was frozen, his brain struggling to process the fact that this was real, happening right in front of him, not something on a screen, not a video he found online, not a dream he had on nights when he wondered what it would feel like. It was happening. Right. Now. And then, mid-verse, Snoop glanced toward the VIP section, sunglasses low, searching, and found Marcus. The kid was staring at him like his whole world had just flipped upside down. And Snoop? He just nodded. Small. Subtle. Barely noticeable to the rest of the crowd. But for Marcus, it was like the universe just reached out and shook his hand. Marcus didn't cheer. Didn't scream. Didn't even move. He just sat there, his heart hammering, his brain scrambling to record every single second of what was happening so he could keep it forever. This wasn't just a concert. It was the first time he had ever felt seen. Somewhere in the middle of the set, Marcus turned to look at Snoop again, watching him work the stage like it was nothing, watching the way he controlled the crowd, the way he made something so massive feel so personal. And in that moment, a thought hit him. Maybe one day, he wouldn't be in the audience. Maybe one day, he'd be on that stage. Snoop wasn't done. And neither was Marcus. Because tonight, this wasn't just about a concert. This was about showing someone what's possible. And Snoop knew. The kid was never gonna be the same after this. The bass hit so deep it felt like it was running through Marcus' bones, making the whole venue shake like the air itself had weight. The crowd wasn't just watching the show, they were part of it, moving together, chanting every word, hands up, eyes locked on the stage like they were witnessing something bigger than music. For them, this was another legendary night, another concert, another experience they'd talk about tomorrow at work, at school, in the group chats. But for Marcus, this wasn't just a concert. This was the moment that would change everything. Marcus had spent years imagining what it would be like to see Snoop perform live. He had pictured it so many times in his head, from the way the stage would look to how the music would hit different when it was coming straight from the source instead of through cheap headphones. But now that he was actually here, sitting this close, feeling the music vibrate through his chest like it was a heartbeat, his brain couldn't keep up. Everything was bigger than he had imagined. The lights, the sound, the way the entire building moved together like one living thing. It was like stepping into a movie that he had only ever watched from the outside, except now, he was inside it. And nothing felt more real. Marcus had never been part of something this big, this alive, this connected. He had been to birthday parties, school assemblies, crowded buses, but nothing like this. This was different. The energy wasn't just loud, it was almost electric, like you could reach out and grab it, like it was running through the walls, bouncing between people, feeding back into the stage, making every second feel like something that could never be repeated the same way again. People weren't just singing along, they were screaming, jumping, throwing their hands up at the exact same time, moving like they had all rehearsed this moment together. Strangers were hugging, rapping lyrics to each other like they had known each other for years. And Marcus? He had never felt this kind of belonging before. Snoop was effortless. It wasn't just about the music, it was about the way he commanded the space, the way he made everything look so easy, like the stage belonged to him and him alone. His voice cut through the noise without trying, smooth, confident, riding the beat like he had been born for this. Marcus had watched interviews, documentaries, heard people talk about how Snoop had done this for decades, how he had mastered the game, but watching him live was something different. This wasn't just experience. This was power. Every step, every glance, every single thing he did felt intentional, like he wasn't just performing a set list, he was controlling time. Marcus had never seen anything like it. Halfway through the show, in the middle of a beat switch, Snoop glanced toward the VIP section again, just like he had before. And this time, he pointed at Marcus. For a second, Marcus thought maybe he was imagining it, that maybe Snoop was pointing at someone else, at the person behind him or next to him, but then Snoop gave him that signature head nod, smooth and unmistakable. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Snoop Dogg had just acknowledged him. Not the kid next to him. Not some random celebrity in the VIP section. Him. It was just a quick moment, barely 2 seconds, but for Marcus, it felt like the entire world had just paused. His whole body went numb, like his brain couldn't process what had just happened. This was the guy he had listened to since he was a kid, the artist whose lyrics he had memorized, the person he had spent the last years saving up just to see from a distance. And now, Snoop Dogg had just looked straight at him. Like he was somebody. Like he mattered. Marcus had always thought of artists, celebrities, big names as people in another world, untouchable, unreachable, living in places he'd never go, surrounded by things he'd never have. He never thought someone like him could be part of something this big, that he could ever be anything more than just another fan in the crowd, watching from a distance. But now, sitting here, in this moment, with Snoop Dogg looking straight at him, he wasn't just a spectator anymore. He was part of this. Everything felt different after that. The music was louder. The bass was heavier. The entire show felt personal now. Every lyric hit deeper. Every beat drop shook his chest a little harder. Every second felt like it mattered more than it had before. And Marcus realized, this isn't just a concert anymore. This is a lesson. As the show went on, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about what had just happened. It wasn't just about being noticed. It was about what it meant. For years, he had convinced himself that dreams like this were just that, dreams. He had told himself that people like him don't get moments like this, that some things are just too far away to ever touch. But tonight had proved something different. Maybe things weren't as far away as they seemed. Maybe all it takes is one moment to change everything. The final song played, the lights changed, the crowd roared as Snoop threw up a peace sign and walked off stage. People were already talking, already posting videos, already moving toward the exits. But Marcus? He wasn't thinking about the end. He was thinking about what comes next. As he followed Snoop backstage, still gripping his VIP pass like it was his most prized possession, one thought was running through his head over and over again. This isn't the last time I'm gonna be here. One day, I won't just be watching. One day, I'll be on that stage. And for the first time in his life, he actually believed it. Marcus sat back in his seat, his heartbeat still playing at the same tempo as the bass that had been shaking the arena minutes ago. The concert had ended, but the energy in the building hadn't faded, it just changed. People were still buzzing, talking, hyped up on adrenaline, posting videos, replaying the best moments in their heads like they didn't want to let go just yet. The floor still vibrated with the echoes of the last song, the speakers humming in the aftermath of something that had felt bigger than just music. But for Marcus, this wasn't just a concert. This wasn't just a night. Something inside him had shifted, and there was no going back. Marcus had never experienced something like this before, not just the show, not just the lights or the sound, but the feeling that came with it. It was one thing to imagine what something like this would be like, to dream about it from a distance, to watch videos online and try to guess what it felt like to be there. But actually being inside, it was something else entirely. The way the music had moved through his body, the way the crowd had pulsed like one living thing, the way Snoop had made the entire arena feel personal, it was all still running through him, still sitting in his chest like a rhythm he couldn't shake. And the craziest part? It wasn't fading. People in the VIP section started gathering their things, adjusting their jackets, stretching like they had just woken up from a dream and were trying to ease back into reality. Conversations were picking up again, laughter breaking through, drinks being finished. But Marcus wasn't moving. He was still locked into the moment, still staring at the stage like the performance was still happening, like maybe if he concentrated hard enough, he could slow down time, make this last just a little longer. Snoop had left the stage, the lights were coming up, but Marcus felt like the real show, the real experience, was still happening inside him. And he didn't know what to do with it yet. His phone buzzed in his pocket, breaking through the haze. For a second, he didn't even want to look at it, didn't want to acknowledge that there was still a world outside of this building, that time was still moving forward whether he wanted it to or not. But eventually, he pulled it out, blinking at the screen. A text from his older brother. "You good? Concert over?" It was a normal text, a basic check-in, nothing special. But something about it felt wrong. Because concert over made it sound like this was just another event, just another thing that had happened, something to be ticked off a list and moved past. And Marcus knew, deep in his soul, that this wasn't something he was ever going to just move past. This wasn't just a concert. This was the first time he had ever felt like the world had cracked open just enough for him to see something bigger. Marcus locked his phone and stuffed it back into his pocket. He didn't want to talk about this yet. Didn't want to put it into words. Didn't want to break the spell. Because what if, once he said it out loud, it stopped feeling real? What if, by the time he got home, the feeling started slipping away? What if, when he woke up tomorrow, it was gone? He had never felt this kind of inspiration before, not like this, not in a way that made his skin buzz, that made his thoughts run a little too fast, that made him feel like something had just unlocked inside him. It was terrifying. And it was perfect. Because for the first time in his life, he didn't just want something. He knew it was possible. Snoop was somewhere in the building, moving through the backstage halls, probably laughing with his team, dapping people up, cooling off from the set. And Marcus? He was about to go back there with him. The thought almost made his stomach flip. All night, he had felt like he was on the edge of something, like he was walking a fine line between the world he had always known and something new, bigger, impossible. And now? Now he was about to step over that line. The security guard near the VIP section nodded toward a side door. "That way, kid." Marcus took a deep breath and stepped forward, each step feeling heavier, more real. Because this wasn't just about meeting Snoop. This was about whatever came next. By the time he made it to the private lounge area backstage, his head was still spinning. The room was filled with people, crew members, friends, artists, everybody still riding that post-show high, talking, laughing, unwinding. But Marcus barely noticed any of it. Because standing right there, cool as ever, sunglasses still on, joint in hand, was Snoop. And when Snoop saw him, his smirk widened slightly, like he had already known this was going to happen, like everything was exactly how it was supposed to be. "You still here, huh?" Snoop asked, tilting his head slightly. Marcus swallowed hard. "Yeah," he said, his voice quieter than he wanted it to be. "Yeah, I guess I am." Snoop leaned back, exhaling a slow cloud of smoke, watching Marcus like he was trying to read something in his face. "You thinking about something heavy right now, ain't you?" Marcus hesitated, then nodded. Snoop smirked. "Yeah," he said, tapping ash into a tray. "That happens the first time you see something real." Marcus didn't even know how to explain what he was feeling. But he didn't have to. Because Snoop already knew. "You ain't just seen a show tonight, lil homie," he said, nodding toward the stage, toward the world Marcus was still trying to process. "You seen something that woke you up." Marcus exhaled slowly. And for the first time since the show ended, he finally understood. Snoop wasn't the type to give long speeches, and Marcus wasn't the type to ask a million questions. They just sat there for a second, letting the weight of everything settle. The after-show buzz was still in the air, laughter from the crew, the occasional pop of a champagne bottle, music playing low in the background, but for Marcus, everything else felt like white noise. Snoop tapped ash off his joint, then looked over at Marcus. "So, what you gonna do with this, huh?" Marcus blinked. Do with what? Snoop smirked, shaking his head. Come on, now. You know what I'm talking about. He nodded toward the stage, then leaned in slightly, lowering his voice just enough to make the words feel heavier. You seen it now. Felt it. That itch ain't going away, trust me. So what you gonna do about it? Marcus opened his mouth to answer, but nothing came out. Because for the first time, he wasn't sure what came next. The room was getting louder, people moving, wrapping up conversations, heading out. The night was winding down, but Marcus felt like he was still stuck in the middle of it, like something wasn't finished yet. Snoop stood up, stretching, like he could already feel the next part of his night calling him. Listen, lil homie, he said, adjusting his sunglasses. Ain't nobody gonna hand you nothing in this life. You wanna be on that stage one day? You gotta move like it's already yours. Marcus swallowed hard, nodding. Snoop clapped him on the shoulder. You got that look in your eye, though. I seen it before. You'll figure it out. And with that, he was gone, walking out the door, melting into the energy of the night like he had never been standing there at all. Marcus sat there for a long time, replaying those words in his head. By the time Marcus finally stepped outside, the city felt different. It wasn't brighter, wasn't louder, wasn't anything special. But he had changed. He didn't know where he was gonna start. Didn't know how he was gonna do it. But for the first time in his life, he knew he had to. Snoop had given him something tonight, something that wasn't just a concert, wasn't just a VIP pass, wasn't just a once-in-a-lifetime moment. He had given him a vision. And now, it was on him to make it real.